Okay, so we just did a review of the first class and talked about the middle of Israel, which is the smallest region of all of Israel, and yet it's the most important and the most populous, just stretching from Ashkelon in the south to Netanya in the north, and extending in like just a little piece to Jerusalem. Okay. So here is the cities that we are going to talk about today. Ashkelon, Ashdod, those are coastal cities. Tel Aviv, another coastal city. Caesarea, another coastal city. And Netanya, another coastal city. And the only one that's not a coastal city is Jerusalem, because pretty much everything in the center that's not in those coastal cities is Jerusalem. As we said, there's Beit Shemesh. Okay, there's Beit Shemesh, and there's like a few things in the middle. But the reason Ashkelon has this pillar is because it's one of the most ancient cities and has ruins of the Philistines. Ashdod has an anchor. Why? Because it's Israel's largest port. Most imports and exports go in and out of Ashdod. What's Israel has two other ports. What are Israel's two other ports?
Haifa. Haifa's one.
Haifa's one.
Ashdod.
Ashdod, Haifa, Ashdod, and
Eilat.
Eilat. Correct.
That's right. We forget.
Correct. Eilat. So that's on the Red Sea. But the two ports on the Mediterranean are Ashdod and Haifa. Tel Aviv is the arguably the most important city in Israel, but that's arguably because that's a big argument. How Israel, and that's really going to be a discussion today, the tension between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. What is the nature of Israel? And that's a really interesting question. Jerusalem is the holy city. Caesarea is another a city that is very fancy today, but really it's known for its Roman ruins, the Roman period. And Netanya is just this beautiful beach city where a lot of immigrants moved. So Russian immigrants, when they came over, moved to Netanya, and most recently French immigrants when anti-Semitism was getting worse and worse in France. Netanya, a lot of people have moved to Netanya. And we'll talk a little bit more about Netanya. Any questions before we move to the next slide? Okay. Okay. Why is Israel, and especially Central Israel, so important historically? They say that Israel was the crossroads of the ancient world. If you wanted to go from Europe to the Middle East, if you wanted to go from Africa to the Middle East. Now, there wasn't much going on in Africa, but Egypt was a major power in the ancient world. So if you wanted, so you don't have to go that far in Africa. If you wanted to go to Egypt,
yeah,
and you wanted to go to the rest of the Middle East, or you wanted to go to Europe or North, you would cross right through Israel. And that's this path that people would trade on was in one of the most ancient routes called the Via Maris. What's Maris?
Maris.
Yeah, the sea. So
Over
the
the
path of the sea.
Yeah.
Right. Obviously, if you're trying to go, you might as well not climb up any mountains. Stay by the sea. It's level, and that's how you could get on the way. So I want to talk a little bit before we go on. This is going to be our history lesson part of this class. A little bit about the history of the land. I'm sure you know a lot about the history of the land, but I kind of want to go through it a little bit more because it's incredible when you think about what has happened in the land. So there have been people living in the land of Israel for time immemorial, right? That it's been as long as there's been humans, they've been in this area. This is, where humanity, maybe it started in Ethiopia, wherever it started, there have been humans right around this area. But recorded history, we have the Canaanites. The Canaanites are there in the land, and they are there doing their Canaanite thing, which was, according to the Torah, not very good. A lot of idolatry and child, sacrifice and bad things. They were there until who came?
Jews.
Till we came. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And killed them.
We didn't kill all of them.
No, we killed a good bit.
There's a lot of disagreement about what actually happened.
Yeah.
Because even though the book of Yoshua says we came in there and we took over large parts of the land, we see in the rest of Tanakh that the Canaanim are still there. So we didn't do a great job in doing what the Torah said, and maybe that's to our benefit or our detriment. It could be either way. But you still have the Canaanites. When did the Israelites come? 1400 before the Common Era. That's when we got there, according to the Torah. 1400 before the Common Era. So we're there in the land. We really have the land for 700 years, a little less than 700 years. The Israelites are strong in the land. Not always strong. Who else lived there were the Philistines. They were up and down the whole coast, but the main 5 Philistine cities, like the core of the Philistine Empire, was right down in South Israel near Ashkelon. So two of their cities were Ashdod, Ashkelon, Gaza, Chetzron, and one other, Dagan maybe. Gat. Yeah, thank you. Good call, Jeff. Gat. Yeah. So they're there in the coastal plain, and we're fighting them. They're fighting us. Like Samson, he was fighting them. We had a lot of problems with them. Sometimes we have problems with the Canaanites. Sometimes we have problems with the Philistines. But that's like ancient Israeli history. For the most part, we were there until 722 BCE. What happened in 722 BCE?
Destruction of the temple.
Not the destruction of the temple. The temple lasted another 150 years. But who fell? The northern kingdoms, because after King Shlomo, after King Solomon, the sons fought and it split. And so the north was called Yisrael, the south was called Yehuda. And we're all from Yehuda. The tribes of Yisrael were lost. The 10 lost tribes, they call them. And that's very sad to think about, that we're all from the Levites, Yehuda, from the tribe of Shimon, and because he was south, maybe some Benjamin, exactly, who's there, and then maybe some from other tribes who live there. But for the most part, most of the Jewish people fell to Sancheriv, who is from the country or the empire of Assyria. What was the capital of Assyria? Nineveh. Remember who was the prophet in Nineveh? Yonah. Remember the story of Jonah, and Hashem says, "Go to Nineveh." Well, the Sancheriv, there's also a famous story. It's a Haftorah we read about the lepers. Remember, Sancheriv says, "I'm done killing killing and exiling the North Israel, the kingdom of Israel. Now I'm going to go to Yehuda." And remember the famous story where Hashem just scares the wits out of them and they all run away. And so the lepers wake up in the morning and they're like, "We're going to die if we don't get some food. We're starving." There was a siege. He made a siege around Jerusalem, and they go into the camp. They're like, "We'll beg for mercy." And there's no one in the camp. There's just food. There's just everyone ran away. And so they're partying, they're eating, and they're like, well, we better not do this too long or else they'll be angry at us. So they like to, we better tell everybody. So anyways, that's Sancheriv. He's not a good guy in Jewish history. 100 years later, Nineveh, the capital of Assyria, is destroyed by which empire?
Babylonian.
The Babylonian Empire. Correct. So in 612 BCE, the Babylonian Empire takes over Syria. What's the capital of Babylonia? This is an easy question. Babylon. Babylon. Okay. So Babylonians were also not great to us. And in 586 BCE, they destroyed the Beis Hamikdash. They captured Jerusalem and they exiled the Jews to Bavel. Where's Bavel? Iraq. In Iraq, where
Yeah.
Ron's from. So we're gonna blame this all. We're gonna blame this on Ron. No, I'm just kidding. And so the Jewish people were all in Bavel and also into Persia. And so you're gonna know what comes next. About 50 years after Jerusalem falls, the empire of Bavel falls. Who captures Bavel? Who captures Babylon? Cyrus. Jeff, you are good, Jeff. Cyrus. You ever heard of Cyrus? Is Cyrus a friend to the Jews?
No,
Heck yes, he is. He's the greatest. Cyrus was the greatest. Cyrus of Persia captures Babylon and says that very year, Jews can and should return to Judea and rebuild their temple. We're talking about the family of Achashverosh here, right? It was Cyrus, then Achashverosh, then Daryavish. These were all Jew lovers. For some reason, the Persians, not like they are now, but in the old days, they did love the Jewish people. And so we like Cyrus. It took them 20 years. In 516, the second temple was dedicated. Second Beis Hamikdash in Yerushalayim. Things were going really well for about 180 years. But things started to get choppy around then because the Persian Empire fell. So the whole time the Persian Empire, that was the golden age of the second Beis Hamikdash. Who took over the Persian Empire? And
the Macedonians, Alexander.
Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great, who was also, by the way, a friend of the Jews. Wasn't clear. He was coming in with an army. There's the famous story of Shimon HaTzadik. Remember the Kohen Gadol, and he's in Alexander's dream. You know the story? It's a good story. Anyways, because of this dream, Alexander, and a vision of seeing holy Shimon HaTzadik, the Kohen Gadol, he decides to be kind to the Jews. And so things go very well under Alexander the Great. But after he dies, his kingdom divides in two. And there are the Egyptians called the Ptolemies, the Ptolemies, and the Syrians called
Seleucids.
The Seleucids, exactly. And the Seleucids are not good to the Jewish people. There is this rivalry between the Ptolemies and the Seleucids, Egypt and Syria, but the Greek empires in those two places. And who's right between Egypt and Syria?
Israel.
Us.
Israel.
Us. So they're looking at us and saying, whoever we have is going to have the upper hand on the other empire. So the Syrian Greeks, which were Antiochus comes in and we have the whole story of Hanukkah, and that's 187. So by 187, things were really bad, but the Maccabees have their revolt, 187 BCE, and they throw out the Greeks, and things are good for 100 years. For 100 years. So we're talking about from 516 all the way to about 63. So 450 years, pretty much, besides that one period where the Greeks were bad to us. For 450 years, the Second Temple was under Jewish rule. Everything was good. what did we do to blow it? Well, the Hashmonayim, who were the Maccabees,
Right.
once they became kings, right? They kicked out the Greeks, and they were like, now we're the king, and they didn't do so well. They kind of went downhill. Like the original Maccabees were very holy. Then generation after generation, they became obsessed with power, and things got worse. And then there was a feud between two brothers, Hyrcanus and Aristobulus. Very Jewish names. They were Jewish kings, but they were named not Jewish names. And what did they do? Who did they invite to solve the feud, which really brought the beginning of the end for our people? Was Pompey, a Roman general, Pompey. And for the first time, so it wasn't like the Romans overthrew the Greeks. It was just that the Greek Empire just fizzled because remember, we have the Ptolemies and the Seleucids, and they're just fighting it out and making each other weak. All this time, Rome is growing more and more and more powerful until finally they're like, we're the boss. You're nothing, Greece. And Rome is looking to expand. It's before the Roman Empire, but they're looking to expand. And we just did them a favor by saying, hey, can you come and fight my brother? Can you come and put my brother in his place? So the Romans came in, and before you knew it, we were a Roman vassal state. We were ruled by the Romans. So it was fairly peaceful that when Rome took over, we didn't fight them. It was just kind of like it happened. It wasn't, nobody was very happy about it. But what were we going to do? They were just this powerful army. And at first they were okay. And in fact, they invested money in Israel. They sent a lot of money to build it out. And they figured, let's make this a Roman base. Let's make this place awesome. And so they built their main city. What was their main city? Caesarea. That was like their landing space. They actually built, which is incredible cost. They built a harbor that was not even there for the Roman ships. And they put a king in charge of the Jews. So basically they were like, it was like, you guys are ruling your own place. But really Herod was just answering to the Romans, like a puppet king kind of, but they financed him. So Herod built a ton of stuff all over Israel. A lot of the things that you see are from the time of Herod. Almost all the things you see are from the time of Herod, all the Roman stuff. So that was 37 BCE, Herod becomes the king. So we're still before the Common Era, and all this has happened, all in our little Israel. Well, things got worse and worse under Herod, and the Romans cracked down on us, and the rabbis especially saw a deep what's the word? Assimilation.
Yeah.
A deep assimilation. The Romans were like slowly breaking Judaism down, and the rabbis were very, very unhappy about this. And ultimately, there was a great revolt in 66, 66 CE. The Jews rebelled against the Roman rule. That's not Bar Kokhba. That's the first great revolt. And in 70, it was 4 years of rebelling. It was like, we're going to do a Maccabees again. But there was so much sinas chinam at that time. Like there was so much sinas chinam. The Jews were split into all these groups. And so it didn't work. And in 74 years after the rebellion began, the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. The Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. Jerusalem was burnt. Though we were allowed to stay there for a little longer, the Romans were like, okay, this is what's going to happen to you guys. Hope you wise up. And we waited under their rule for another 60 years, kind of hoping like this is the time of like we go from Hillel, now we're in the time of Rabbi Akiva, and people are like hoping Mashiach's going to come. They're like, they didn't know it was going to be 1,000 years, 2,000 years. They were like, Mashiach better come and build this second Beis HaMikdash. Like, when's it happening? And so they were really like kind of chomping at the bit. And ultimately, a leader named Bar Kokhba, who was supported by Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva thought he was Mashiach. A lot of people thought he was Mashiach. Rose up and said, "We're going to overthrow the Romans," and it didn't work. And it was a brutal, brutal destruction. 132 CE, and that was the end of the Jewish people around Jerusalem. Jews were forced to leave. No Jews were allowed in Jerusalem under the Romans at that time. They plowed the city, built it again, renamed it. So it wasn't Jerusalem at the time. They were so angry at us that they called the name of the land Philistina, because that was our enemy, the Philistines.
Yeah.
And they were like, we're going to erase the Jewish people from this history. And the Jewish people were able to stay, but only in the north of Israel. So that story of central Israel, which we're talking about today, became Jew-free. Jews were not allowed in central Israel. And that's where the Romans were. And in the north, the Romans were, they said, let them go live up in the boonies. We don't have to see them. We don't have to think about them. And a lot of Jews started leaving Israel at that time. Some went back to Bavel. That's where, so pretty soon after that time, right, you have the Mishnah, you have the Gemara, but where's the Gemara written?
In Babylon.
In Bavel.
Yeah.
Right. So really, they made it so miserable that Jewish people were like, we got to go somewhere else. And the first place to go, some Jews went to Europe. Some Jews were taken as slaves to Italy. And then we spread out through there. Some Jews went to North Africa. That's where you have, some Jews went to Turkey. So that's where you start to have this, like, Sfaradim and Mizrahim. Right after this, everybody starts to dissipate because the Romans are like, we don't want you here. And we're not going to make it nice for you. So the Jews start to go in all directions. But the major place to go was a place where we've been before. Bavel. We know Bavel. We've been there. We know that place. It's safe. They've been good to us. So that was like where they went back to mostly. And that's where the Gemara was written. Okay. Are you guys doing okay? Am I doing too much history? Okay.
Now.
So Jewish people are out. After all this history, thousands of years of history, we're now out. But history continues to unfold in Israel. So what happens in Israel? Well, the Romans split into two empires, the Western Roman Empire, which collapses and becomes Europe, and the Eastern Roman Empire, which is run by who? Anybody want to guess who's like the emperor of the Roman Empire?
Constantine.
Very good call, Constantine. And he takes the city called Byzantium and he says, I'm going to rename it after me and I'm going to call it Constantinople, which is now called Istanbul, not Constantinople. No, it's Istanbul. Okay.
In Hoc Signo Vicus, in his dying day, he made Christianity.
Correct. So we're talking 330 ACE. 330. Now it's 330 after the Common Era.
Okay.
And Constantine introduces Christianity. And now the Holy Land is Christian. And one of the things we're going to talk about today is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. That was built around this time. It's ancient. And it's more ancient than the Church of the Holy Sepulchre? Our places.
Okay.
Like the Kotel. The Kotel is much more ancient. But he built the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which is there today for early Christianity. That's where supposedly Jesus is buried. Probably he is buried there. He was a Jew. He was an actual human being. So Constantine and the Byzantines are there doing very well very well for them, not generally for the Jews. The Jews were allowed to live there and come back in small numbers right under the Christians, but they had to be like despised. Like for up until 1948, let's just assume the Jews were despised by everyone there. It was not easy to be a Jew in Jerusalem after the Romans. Just was not good. And it went back and forth. We're going to talk about the Muslims, the Christians. Nobody liked the Jews. So the Byzantines were there for 300 years. What happened in the 600s? What came about in the 600s? What was invented?
It's-
Muhammad.
A new religion
it's-
by this guy named Muhammad invented Islam in the 600s, and it didn't take much time. They were like from the very beginning. Muhammad himself led wars. It was a warring religion. It was a religion where they took all these kind of warriors and fought against each other and fought against anybody who wasn't Muslim. And then they had splits, like the Shia and the Sunni was already in the second generation. They fought. So it's kind of like a warlord situation. Whenever you're talking about the Islam, it's not one, like when Islam is ruling, it's not one group. It's a bunch of different groups that sometimes cooperate, sometimes they kill each other, and it's
They don't need now.
It's still like.
so that was always the case. And so when you say the Muslims fought the Crusaders, or right, it's not one. It's not the Arabs. There was no Arabs. It was just a bunch of different, like the Egyptian Muslims under this caliph, and the Iraqi Muslims under this chieftain, and right. So they basically followed their tribes. They're really just tribes following their chieftain, following their caliph or their So, anyways, things are going really well for the Christians, the Byzantines, for about 300 years, and then Caliph Umar comes in and kills them all in 638, and the Muslims build the church, not the church, they don't have churches. They build the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque at that time. So we're talking about in the late 600s is when the mosque is built, and things are happy for them for about 350 years. Not for the Jews, not for the Christians, that's for sure, but for the Muslims there for 350 years. But who comes in 1099?
Crusaders.
Crusades.
Yes, there was this kind of like, there was this itch in Europe. There was this itch to like do something. Life was miserable, and the only thing that was made life less miserable was like a deep belief in Jesus and wanting to kill the Jews.
Yeah, that's always part of it.
And they talked for generations
Yeah.
about redeeming Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And finally, the Pope said,
Do it.
Do it. The Pope said,
Yeah.
do it. And as you do it, I'm giving you permission to raid and kill any Jews along the way and take their possessions.
That's right.
That's sanctioned by the church. So that's why so many Jewish communities perished, because basically some of the Crusaders didn't even make it past the Jewish communities. They just were like, oh, this is fun. But the purpose was to get enough money so that then they could go down and have their holy war. Well, they did have their holy war, and it was 200 years. 200 years they fought back and forth. The Crusaders and the Muslim armies fought for 200 years, just back and forth, fighting. We're talking about from 1100 to 1300. Just war. Times where the Christians took it over and they kind of held it, but there was all kinds of fighting. Jews suffered. At that time, there's the Ramban arrives in Jerusalem, and there's like nothing. He comes and he says there's like Jews here, and they're impoverished, and they're miserable, despised by the Christians, by the Muslims, and it's just very tough. And he founds a synagogue that is there today, the Ramban synagogue in the Jewish quarter. Okay, 1300 comes along, and a group of Muslim warriors called the Mamluks chased the last Crusaders out. And they weren't alone. Like they had everybody was fighting the Crusaders, but the last ones were driven out by the Mamluks. So they're kind of ones who get to sit there and stay there. They also, something very more famous about the Mamluks that we don't know about because it's a regular historical thing. They fought another army that was trying to come in and kill everybody. This one's out of left field. If you can guess this one, Jeff, I'll be impressed.
Late, you mean much later though?
No, right around this time,
Jeff is gonna.
the Mamluks, besides defeating the Crusaders, also defeated,
The Persians?
nope, close-ish, not the Turkish. Mamluks were kind of Turkish themselves. Some, I think they were mainly from Egypt, but there were some from, they were kind of a loose group of people.
Mongols.
Oh, you got it.
What did he say?
The Mongols.
Hulagu Khan, the grandson of Genghis.
Oh, the Mongols.
Hulagu Khan,
Mongolia.
Genghis Khan swept through China and Russia, and he took over that whole huge thing, Genghis. And when he died, he passed it to his son, who kept on going. And then he passed it to his son, who kept on going. And finally, the grandson, Hulagu, got to Israel.
Wow.
And that's where they finally beat the Mongols. That was the first place that the Mongols got stopped. They got crushed by the Mamluks, and they had to go back towards Mongolia. They had taken over the Persians. Like the Mongolians had taken over Iran, Iraq. They'd pushed all the way to Israel, and then the Mamluks pushed them back. Okay, so Mamluks are happy. They have it for about 200 years. And then who comes and defeats the Mamluks? Selim the First of Turkey. Yes, the Ottomans. The Ottomans Empire. And they have it from 1500 to 1917. The Turkish are in charge. They have an empire, and they are doing really well. The large Turkish Empire went into Europe, went down into this whole region, into Egypt, really into Syria. The Ottomans sided with Germany in World War I. Bad move. No more Ottomans. No more Ottomans. After World War I, there were no more Ottomans. And who was there in 1917 in Jerusalem? The British. The British. The British, who like to try to make everyone happy. They said yes to the Jews. They said yes to the Arabs. They said yes to the Jordanians. They said yes to everybody, and then tried to make it work.
They lied to everybody.
If you say yes to everybody, I'll tell you, that's not going to work for you. I used to do that as a kid. I wanted to make everyone happy, so I said yes. If you're going to hit a wall, better to be honest.
Everyone's gonna hate you, really.
Everyone's going to hate you. And that really is what happened. But they did favor, unfortunately, they were, there was, is now, it's like, imagine England being like America. You have Democrats, you have Republicans. So you had different parties. There were some who were very pro-Arab, some who were pro-Jew, like Balfour, who issued a declaration saying that this should go to the Jewish people. So there were some British that had fought alongside Jews in World War I, or in previous battles to that, and said, these Jews are good people. They're like us. They should have a land. And then there were others who were on the Arab side of things. And especially given that now oil became a major of major importance, it played a role in decision making.
Blame Henry Ford, huh?
So when the British pulled out, they really favored the Jordanians over the Jews. They did not leave us in a great position, which is really sad history. But 1948 was the miracle we call Israel. So that's all the history from all the way back from the Canaanites all the way till now. And I hope some of it sits, because if somebody tells you the Jews were never in Israel, you say I can tell you the whole history, every year of it from the beginning, and
So where did the Arabs
British
come
also
from?
had the
Where did
French
the Arabs
partners.
come from?
like Saudi Arabia, they started.
Okay.
Saudi Arabia, the tribes. There were just all these different tribes. Imagine like Bedouins who are basically they have allegiance to their own tribe.
Yeah, there were
But
no
Muhammad just like took a bunch of them, went tribe by tribe, said, "You're going to join us or die." They said, "We join you."
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, the religion and that kind of solidified it, and it just picked up steam through war and conquest.
Okay.
At first, Muhammad prayed facing Jerusalem, and there came a time when he turned and started praying toward Mecca, because Mecca was his hometown. It's like Kamar Adenauer in Bonn,
Okay.
He was born in Mecca, so hey, may as well,
All of these things could have a whole 4-part class about any one of these eras, and maybe
Yeah.
if people are interested, we'll do that sometime. But that is Jewish history, Israel history in a nutshell. Let's talk about Ashkelon. First of all, I like to work backwards. Ashkelon is a really cool city. Ashkelon is going to have a golden age now. It's the last city on the Mediterranean that is somewhat affordable. Netanya, obviously Tel Aviv is crazy. Ashdod's okay, but it's more expensive because it's closer to Tel Aviv. Ashkelon is cheap. And why was Ashkelon cheap for so long?
Isn't there a prison there?
Maybe.
The big ancient prisons there.
Oh, could be an ancient prison. I don't know. But the reason was because it's like a 20-second Katusha from, or 20-second missile from Gaza. People did not want to live there, but Gaza is now, please God, going to be a safe place for the Jewish people. So Ashkelon is a beautiful city that's seeing a tremendous influx right now, as we speak, of Anglos, of people from America moving there. We have people from our shul who bought houses there and lived there. So Ashkelon, just remember that place. And obviously, it's one of the oldest cities. Ashkelon, like from the word shekel, it was a port of trade. A lot of in the ancient world, yeah, it goes way back. Today in Ashkelon, there are still ruins, major ruins from the Philistines.
Yeah.
In fact, those are the only like. Uh-oh. There we go. Yay. There we go. It has the oldest Canaanite arch. Like this is from the Canaanites. Like, yeah, it looks pretty good still.
Amazing.
Yeah, you want something to last? Build a stone arch. That's where they have arches that are like thousands and thousands of years old. Also, little did you know, the world's largest ancient dog cemetery.
Cemetery?
An ancient dog cemetery with over 800 dog bones between 4th and 5th centuries BCE.
Wow.
So yeah, dog bones from 2,500 years ago. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And then it's like this national park of the ruins. And not too much in Ashkelon. We went through the whole history, so I'm not going to do that. Today, 166,000 people live in Ashkelon. It was one of the early cities of Israel. Next city up, if you go up from Ashkelon, is Ashdod. And see, remember we talked about the Philistines? They had Ashdod, Ashkelon, Gaza, Gat, and Ekron. Those are all in the Tanakh, like over and over again. Like things happened, fights happened in all those cities. Sometimes they took the fight to us up the mountain. We were living up the mountain, right by Jerusalem, and they were down in the valley. Sometimes they took the fight up to us. Sometimes we took the fight down to them. One time they captured the Aron. We went to fight them. We were not holy, but we thought, hey, the Aron will protect us. And they captured the Aron and they put it in the temple of their god, Dagon, who was a fish god. You see, this is how one of these, I don't know if he looked like that. Doesn't look too scary, but he was the fish god, Doug, right? Dagon. And like they put the Aron in the temple of Dagon, and Dagon kept on getting exploded, and they all got hemorrhoids and things, and it was a bad time for the Philistines. They took the ark back. They took it. They sent it back. We want our money back. So they sent it back.
they thought it was cursed. For them, it was.
As we said, Ashdod is one of the 3 ports of Israel and the largest of the ports. So it's cars. You want to get cars in Israel? They came from Ashdod. things that are getting coming into Ashdod. The second largest port is Haifa, and the third and only other port is Eilat.
Their Merchant Marine Academy is in Ashdod.
The Merchant Marine Academy is in Ashdod. Oh, interesting.
Do they have good beaches?
Ashdod is not known for its beaches. Ashkelon's beaches are nicer. Tel Aviv's beaches are nicer. Yes,
It's a working port city.
yes, it's a port city. Exactly. It's not a great beach city. We went through the whole thing, but it's still there's the Ashdod Philistines Museum if you want to learn about the Philistines. They were our enemies, but we made a museum for them. It's the fifth largest city in Israel with a population of 228,000, and one of the early cities of Israel. Okay, Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv is an incredible city. It was the first city founded in Israel. Now there were settlements like little Jewish like farmers and settlements, but the idea of like we're gonna build a city, our own city, that was Tel Aviv. In 1909, 66 families. You see this picture. This is what Tel Aviv looked like. Literally, there was no city there.
It was dunes.
What was the nearest city? Jaffa. Right. There was a city called Jaffa.
But it's like a little fishing town.
I'll show you. Do you see this? This is the south. To the south of Tel Aviv is an ancient city called Jaffa.
Jaffa.
Jaffa is in the Torah. That was a port in the Torah. There is a road that goes from Jaffa to Jerusalem, the same road we use today. The same road you take when you drive up to Yerushalayim is the very road that Avraham went on if he was going to Jaffa. So they wanted to remember. Theodore Herzl wrote a cool book called The Old New Land, The Old New Land. And he talks about his vision for a land that embraces the old, but it's also like cutting edge. He was pretty sharp because that's a lot of what Israel is today. And they renamed it the name that he had, a name in his memory, Spring Hill or Tel Aviv, the hill of spring. It had originally been called Achuzat Bayit. Imagine that our city was called Achuzat Bayit, which means the homestead. Like Achuzat is a inheritance. Yeah, it's like it's the house that we inherit. Like we inherit this spot. They had a lot of sand and a lot of good intentions, and that's what they had. Sand and good intentions. And they just started building like with their bare hands, with whatever they had, sponsored by the Rothschilds, put in a lot of money. Many communities from Europe who were Zionist at that time put in money to what was called Keren Kayemet L'Israel, to what's the JNF today. They put in money. People were contributing and saying, build Israel, build it. So that's how it started, by contributions. A lot from America too. In World War I, the Ottomans threw all the Jews out of Tel Aviv. Right, we had built it before World War I. It started to build. Maybe there was like 1,000 Jews by then. They threw them all out. But when they were allowed back in after World War I, Jewish people came right back to Tel Aviv. Kept on building it, it kept on growing, and it became the most important city from the very beginning under the British mandate. That's where we declared our independence in Tel Aviv. There's Independence Hall you could see there. And finally, it spread so big that it touched Yaffo, and then they were like, okay, that's one city, Tel Aviv, Yaffo. What's good in Yaffo? There's a really good shakshuka place called Mr. Shakshuka. You know about Mr. Shakshuka? If you like shakshuka, you got to go to Mr. Shakshuka.
A lot of artisans.
A lot of artists. Yeah, beautiful view from here overlooking Tel Aviv.
Citrus.
California is here.
The White City.
Yolk City.
Yeah.
So, like,
as things were really taking off in Tel Aviv, um, a bunch of Germans came because there was the beginning of the Nazi persecution. And these were smart Germans. And they brought money with them and building knowledge and architectural knowledge. And this was the way, this was like cutting edge design in Germany in the 1930s. Bauhaus, it was called. It was like a design. It was like very modern and functional.
Functional.
And that's how they built Tel Aviv. You go to Tel Aviv, it's the biggest collection of Bauhaus architecture, which represents that the 1930s, kind of the beginning of modern architecture. And they're all white, so they call it the White City. That's a name for Tel Aviv. You have the biggest university, Tel Aviv University, larger than Hebrew U in Jerusalem, and it's just a party city. It's like Miami Beach. There's stuff going on through the night, parties, but these parties are Jewish parties. So it's like filled with. My sister lived there for a bunch of years, Jordana, and she used to go out partying, and she used to be like, these people are also smart and they're also Jewish. They're very Jewy. Like you're dancing in a club, but everybody's Jewish, and it's just like an interesting, like, yeah, it's just such a crazy, interesting feeling. I didn't get to spend a lot of time. I spent 2 years in Israel, but that time was in Jerusalem, being a good boy. So I didn't get to party in Tel Aviv and dance at clubs, unfortunately. And I did do one club one night, but I was too shy to do it, to even dance. It was like the youth is wasted on the youth, they say.
Yeah.
Can I make a comment?
Yes,
I'm not a member of the shul, but
it's okay. You can make a comment.
I'm Ariel Siegel. I'm a Hebrew catalog editor at the Library of Congress. I'd like to let folks know that the Israel Film Archive has put thousands and thousands of newsreel clips and things online over the decades. We can see amazing stuff like a 1920 archaeological excavation at Hamat Tveria. So I can share a link. So it's like really good as historical material.
Thank you. That sounds amazing. How do we find this? You want to put it in the chat?
Yes, I will. Give me a sec.
Thank you. That's awesome. So Tel Aviv and next class, we obviously didn't finish the center, but there's a lot to talk about. Not as much to talk about the north, so we will. I mean, there's a lot to talk about the north too, but we did a lot of history today, so we'll continue the middle and go to the north for next class.
Okay.
But we're going to contrast. We haven't even gotten to Yerushalayim yet, to Jerusalem, but the contrast between Tel Aviv as this party city, also cutting edge tech, one of the top 5 tech cities in the world, up there with San Francisco and New York and
Silicon
Dubai.
Valley.
Yeah, I mean, it literally is one of the places where you can be in tech, like where you can be like, and the whole idea, that ecosystem of a startup nation, the drive, the energy of the economics of Israel is in Tel Aviv, and also just like we said, like the nightlife, but also restaurants. The food in Tel Aviv is world class. They have some of the best restaurants, and some of those best restaurants are kosher.
Yeah.
It's hard to find not kosher food it's hard to find not kosher food in Israel, but if you're gonna find it, you got to go to Tel Aviv.
Tel Aviv
Unfortunately.
has the best Italian restaurant kosher. Jerusalem. No, just Jerusalem.
All right, everybody, we're gonna end on that note. Jerusalem, the eternal city, is next. We'll compare and contrast and get into some stories, some testimonies from historical characters about Jerusalem. It's important to understand what the state of Jerusalem was through the centuries, and to understand what we have now. Because when you go to Jerusalem now, when we say Yerushalayim Habnuyah, the rebuilt Jerusalem, I think that really means Mashiach. But what if you look at Yerushalayim, it is incredible. It's never been this great. And we'll even talk about that rebirth. Like there are 2,000 yeshivot, 2,000 yeshivot in all of Israel, in all of Europe. At the peak of like the world of the yeshiva in Europe, there were 500.
Wow.
There's 2,000.
There's 2,000 yeshivas in Israel today. The Mir Yeshiva in Europe had 800 students.
Yeah.
The Mir Yeshiva, yes, like 10 to 15,000. So it's a whole different thing. It's like mind blowing. So we'll get into that. Thank you everyone for coming to class number 2. We'll continue next week. Same time.
Fantastic.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
It's fun to think about.